these evils, a world in which kids are raised.
I wouldn't say that STD is evil. It's just like, you know what? It's weird to use the word evil. STDs are evil. STDs don't have any intent. It's not like they're a moral actor in the world. They exist. If you like my content, you can become a member for as little as 99 cents a month by clicking the join button beneath the video. Also, please like the stream and follow me if you like my content. This next video we're going to be reacting to is once again by PragerU, and it is called Sex. What if the Bible is right? Now, personally, personally, I suspect that the Bible is not right about this. Now, color me surprised. I feel like a book written over 2,000 years ago by Iron Age folks might not be the most enlightened in terms of its views on gender and sexuality and sex in general. But, we'll see what great insight that PragerU offers. As we all know, especially in this community, we know that PragerU is essentially a propaganda outlet, a right-wing propaganda outlet that is being heavily pushed by the Trump administration. It's currently being taught in American schools, and it is deeply linked up with a right-wing view of the world. Okay? So let's see what PragerU has to say about this. Sex, what if the Bible is right?
Contemporary culture the following question: what would the world be like if everyone followed the Bible's teaching on sex? Better, same, or worse? Okay, I can almost hear many of you saying, what does an ancient book have to teach me about sexual ethics?
Well, I agree with him there. What does an ancient book have to teach me about sexual etiquette? By the way, I am trained in anthropology. Throughout time and places, there are different codes of ethics and etiquette regarding sex. There are different codes and cultural beliefs regarding marriage. It is it has been different in multiple times and places. No doubt that at the time the Bible was written, ideas about sex, sexuality, and marriage were very different than they are now. Okay. So it is weird to want to look back over 2,000 years ago when this is something that doesn't have this isn't an established idea anywhere. It changes. Okay.
Today? Fair enough. Stay with me. First, I have to explain what the Bible says about the topic. Simply put, from Genesis to Revelation, the Bible teaches that God designed sex to be experienced between one man and one woman who become one flesh in a
Uh,
loving, committed.
No. So unfortunately, weirdly enough, it's funny to have to correct him. I've read the Bible multiple times. I am an atheist, but I've definitely read the Bible multiple times. uh, it is if anything, and these are the people that this happens to in the Bible are often people that God is blessing and assigning great deeds to. So I'm not sure what he means that throughout the Bible, it is established that it's always one man and one woman when it's clearly oftentimes one man and multiple women, oftentimes against their consent. There's a lot of sexual assault. There's even one part where God commands the Israelites to kill essentially an entire population of people and then says, you can keep the women. Now, a lot of Christians would say, oh, well, clearly he didn't mean that for immoral purposes. He didn't? What do you think was meant by you can kill all the men, but you can keep the women? What do you think they were using the women for? So I guess according to the Bible, that's okay. So I don't really think it's true that it says that one man and one woman is always the best. And it definitely doesn't promote that with the stories it tells. Anyway, just a note.
Relationship for life. While it's true that the Bible is full of people who fail to follow this teaching, and sadly experience the consequences of their choices.
Do they? Because the people in the Bible, a lot of the people in the Bible who are polygamists are blessed by God and are considered like the forerunners of the faith, like Abraham and Isaac. And now I could be getting the specific names wrong here, but they're like the main people in the religion who had multiple wives. So God definitely isn't punishing them enough if that is something he's punishing them for. Okay.
The Bible holds that sex is a sacred gift meant to be experienced within monogamous marriage. With this in mind, let's return to my question. After much discussion and a lot of hemming and hawing, here's what my students typically say.
So, I'll real fast here about the idea that sex is a sacred gift meant to be experienced within marriage. I don't understand this. God must be deeply cruel, must be a deeply cruel deity to give human beings the urge to engage in sex, okay, for the sake of reproduction, and to then criticize them when they engage in it, with unless it's within specific circumstances. Why would a benevolent God do that? Be like, "Oh, here, you have all these urges to, and have sex. You have all these natural urges, but you're a sinner. You're a sinner if you do it outside of marriage. You must be, completely chaste until you're married." Seems kind of like cruelty to me. It seems like, why are you making so anyway, just a side note there. Or maybe that it God didn't create people. I'm just saying, maybe it's just we're animals, and it's a biological trait that we want to reproduce because that passes on our genetics, and that allows for the survival of the species, and it's sort of been evolved into us. Maybe it has to do more with evolution, and it's not some divine gift from God. Okay? Just maybe that's a better explanation. And maybe we shouldn't feel so guilty about feeling those things. Okay?
There would be no pregnancies outside of a loving, committed marriage. There would be no pain and devastation from adultery. There would be no absent
What?
fathers. There would be less domestic violence. There would be
What?
no sex trafficking, sexual abuse, or sexually transmitted diseases.
What?
My students have to admit that a
I'm
world
sorry. There was just too much in there. He's saying that if people were only monogamous, none of those things would exist. Um but that's not what happens. We do know that half of monogamous marriages fail. You see what I mean? It's not like I don't know how you would achieve a situation where everyone had a perfect monogamous marriage. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very confused. That's okay. By the way, there are also ways. Yeah, there's also ways to have a non-monogamous situation and not spread STDs and not give produce children and things like that. There are also ways, like if you use protection or you okay. Anyway, you could also in a marriage accidentally have children when you don't want them. I don't or you could spread an STD in a marriage. Like I don't okay, I don't understand. I'm very confused, but okay, we'll go on.
without these evils, a world in which kids are raised
I wouldn't say that STD is evil. It's just like, you know what? It's weird to use the word evil. STDs are evil. STDs don't have any intent. It's not like they're a moral actor in the world. They exist. Um okay, and if they're evil, why did God create them? If we're going to use this argument, syphilis is a living thing, so is God must have created it, right? So God made this evil syphilitic disease. I'm not sure why a living thing that it just exists is evil. I also don't know if I would say that even well, okay.
in a stable home with parents who love and cherish them would be far better than the world we currently inhabit. In contrast, the sexual revolution
Oh God,
has
here we go.
largely brought
Here we go.
psychological pain, disillusionment, and brokenness.
Oh, is that so?
Why?
Here we go.
Because it is rooted in at least three falsehoods.
Okay, first of all, guys, again, as always, conservatives always deeply obsessed with sex. Deeply obsessed with sex. Apparently, like the sexual revolution was the worst thing that ever happened in the United States and anywhere. That is the source of all of our problems. All of our problems. The source of all of our problems is the sexual revolution. By the way, there's an implication there too. You do know that the sexual revolution also came with a lot of liberation for women. So they're also saying, it's kind of underneath the surface idea that women shouldn't be liberated. They shouldn't be, birth control is bad. Women being able to, you know, take agency and, yeah, go have fun, maybe have sex with a guy or 2. Not have to be stuck, you see what I mean? Like, um there's a lot of problems with this. By the way, do we think that there weren't a lot of like, before the sexual revolution, do you think that people weren't broken then? Do we think there weren't households where there was domestic abuse going on, or women especially felt like they were trapped and couldn't get out of a, horrific marriage because they relied on the husband for economic reasons because the society wouldn't let them, get a job or whatever? You see what I mean? So, okay. This is just weird to me. It's just weird to me.
Line number one: sex is merely a leisure activity with no deeper meaning.
Okay, no one thinks that. I don't know. I don't know of anyone who thinks that sex is only a leisure activity with no deeper meaning. No. Okay. Yeah, it can be a leisure activity. That doesn't mean that it's only a leisure activity. It has deeper meaning. Okay. It can also be an act of love. It can be an act of forming a deeper emotional relationship with someone. Okay. This is not like it is no one says it's only a leisure activity. It's also a way of creating children, okay? Uh, to say okay, and by the way, even if it were just a leisure activity, I don't really care. I don't really care. Regardless, no one thinks that, okay? No one, okay, that's not even what the sexual revolution said. It didn't say that sex was a just a leisure activity. It was saying that we shouldn't people can, be more expressive about their sexuality. Yeah, if you want to do it as a leisurely activity, more power to you. That's your decision. Okay? Anyway, but like also who cares? Again, like their obsession with these things drives me crazy. Why do they care too if people are doing it as a leisure activity? Like, I want people to be happy. If people want to go leisurely have sex, more power to you. I want people to be happy. Why do they care about other people's bedrooms so much?
This is the central thesis of the sexual revolution. Sex is just a biological function. And of course, it's fun. And what's wrong with having a little bit of fun? And with birth control, there's no downside, right? But
I told you guys. What did I tell you? Did I not say that they're going to meant that birth control is going to come into this? You do know that birth control is another way of saying liberating women, right? By the way, one of the only ways that we know of that you almost universally fixes poverty is giving women more control over the reproductive cycles. Literally, in almost every society, if you give women access to birth control or condoms, you see the whole society rise up economically. It's one of the few universal ways to reduce poverty is to empower women over the reproductive cycles. So saying that birth control is bad is not only trying to control women's reproductive cycles, it's also trying to keep people in poverty. That's what that does, okay? Just to be honest with you.
everyone knows this is not the full story. We all know there's more to sex than merely having a good time. Why, for instance, do movies now have an intimacy coordinator for sex scenes? They don't have a dinner coordinator for dinner scenes. Even in progressive Hollywood, they acknowledge that sex is in a category of its own.
Yeah, yeah, of course they have intimacy coordinators because there's a bunch of legal boundaries they have to get over when recording a sex scene, right? You have to make sure that there's a lot of issues with recording a sex scene because you have to worry about making sure that the actor and actress or actor and actor or actress and actress or actor and actor and actress, whoever's involved, I'm not discriminating, aren't assaulting each other and you don't get a lawsuit. You have to make sure that you aren't showing body parts that it's going to get your movie banned and things like that. There's a lot that goes into, um, coordinating a sex scene. You have to, and there's a lot of legal components to it, which, by the way, kind of shows our obsession with this stuff that we have to have these coordinators that we have to in order to prevent all these legal things from happening. Um, by the way, why don't we have coordinators for violent scenes? It's weird that we feel like we have to coordinate scenes about sex, but in America, we have so much violence, like all these shows about killing people with guns, all these shows about like, war and crap like that. I doubt we have to have coordinators for those scenes because those aren't won't get as many legal challenges. Anyway, and I don't care about that either. I'm just saying, isn't it interesting how our society is so obsessed with a natural bodily function rather than, the violence and things like that that we're constantly showing in our movies? All right.
Hollywood might not call sex sacred, but they recognize its power, its significance, its meaning,
Hmm.
which, if you think about it, is not too far from the biblical view. Lie number two:
What?
men and women are interchangeable. Your great
No.
grandmother would have fallen
What does that mean? Okay, no one says that. No one says that men and women are interchangeable. You know what people say? That they should be treated equally. That men and women deserve equal rights. They deserve to be treated equally. That we shouldn't have different expectations or we shouldn't stereotype based off gender. No one says that they're interchangeable. Okay. No one says that like someone who is gendered as a man can be interchanged with someone who's gendering as a woman. Like all right. That's the whole point of the categories is that you don't interchange them, right? So whether you're a trans man or a cis man or whatever it may be, you shouldn't like go about no one says that. My point, okay, again, it's a straw man, all right? No one says they're interchangeable. We say that you shouldn't be discriminated against or treated differently based off that, okay? If that does that make sense, folks? Right. Okay.
out of her chair laughing at this one. But today, this obvious truth often gets lost in our confused world.
What?
Consider the fact that well over 9 out of 10 sex offenders are male. If men and women were interchangeable, it would be 50-50.
No, so here's the thing. This is the problem, right? Yeah. Yeah. 9 out of 10 men are or not sorry, 9 out of 10 sexual offenders are found to be men. There are issues with this. One, does that mean that every single man is a sexual offender? No. It means that the vast majority of men do not do that. And so to put up a stat like that is actually pretty biased against men. It's implying, well, men are fundamentally like assaulting people. No, and that's the issue with generalizing based off gender. Yeah, men of the stat show men are more likely to do this. Does that mean that all men do this and that we should assume every man is going to be a sexual predator? No. Okay. No. No. Right? Just like when we make assumptions about women and things and like strength, okay? On average, is it easier for men to build muscle mass? Yes, okay. But does that mean that every woman is like weaker than a man? No, that's generalizing. So, okay. Uh I'm just it's this completely missing the point. Completely missing the point.
The obvious reason is
Treat people like human beings and meet them where they are with their capabilities and their morality and see what I mean? Don't just assume based off gender anything, all right?
it's not, is because men and women are different. They have different sex drives. They are biologically different, and they even think differently. This, too,
Okay. All right. Different sex drives. I'm not sure what that means. Like, I'm not even going to address that, okay? Because, guys, I don't know if you know this, women can be horny. Ooh. Oh my God. Is that shocking? Do you know that women can be horny? Women can be horny. Men can also be horny. But, I don't know if you know this. Men and women are human beings and they have a biological drive to reproduce. By the way, both men and women can also never be horny because there are some people who are asexual and don't, uh, you know, aren't really into that. This is why you can't generalize, all right? Biologically different. Yeah, okay, yeah. But, you know, it depends on how you look at it. Yeah, there's some biological differences between uh men and women, okay? Yeah, but and that they think differently. Why? Okay, that's cute, but we do know that in the vast majority of ways, men and women think the same. Why do these folks always emphasize the differences? And also, it doesn't apply to everyone. We all think like human beings. That's what we should think of first. And there might be some differences between men and women, but it depends on the person. and I don't even know if it's really that true overall. This is debatable. There have been some studies on it. Regardless, it's an assumption. Okay. So, all right.
The Bible affirms. Lie number 3, consent alone makes sex moral. While consent alone must be given for sex to be
I'm sorry. This one confuses me. Uh, Sex must be moral as long as consent is given. Well, okay. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this one. We could debate. So the act itself is having sex more immoral if I mean moral if you have consent. I think so. If you have two consenting adults, by the way, it has to be adults who engage in sex, then the act is moral. Now, we could talk about whether it's moral to do when you're lying to a partner, if you're cheating on someone or something like that, okay? But the act itself, it's just sex. I'm sorry to say that. I know the right wing is weirdly like freaks out about, always freaks out about sex. It's like it's just sex, okay? It's like a normal thing that people do. Okay. So yeah, if there's consent, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that act as long, and people can withdraw consent anytime. Now, of course, if we were to talk about, like I said, doing it outside of marriage or something, like while you're married, that we could have a debate there. But the act itself, I don't know why. First of all, why do you care if there's two consenting adults or more than two? I'm not trying to hold back here. Why do you care if they've given consent? Okay, if they've given consent, who cares?
moral. Consent alone does not make it right or good. You can harm someone and dehumanize them with their consent.
What if they're into that? What if they're totally into that, right? What if someone likes to be dehumanized and you see what I mean? My okay, again though, it's consent, right? Like, I don't wanna judge someone who might like that if that's what they like sexually. Why do we, like, you can you might dehumanize them. Well, yeah, if you give consent, though, and it makes you happy, and you're like, "Okay, go ahead," if that's what you're into, I'm just saying, uh, okay, right? Alright.
Wouldn't you rather be with someone who cherishes you rather than someone who's focused on simply getting you to say yes? Of course you would. That's the biblical view as well.
Ew, no,
In
what?
contrast to the message of the sexual revolution, people with a lifetime sexual partner, the biblical design, report the happiest marriages.
That's why it's a lifetime marriage, is because they're happy. But we have to understand that half of marriages fail, at least in the United States. I'd have to look at stats for elsewhere. So that's cute. Well, it's all great to be like, yeah, if you have a marriage that lasts for life, they're typically happy. That's because they've lasted for life. So, I mean, or I should say that's why they've lasted for life is those people are happy, but most marriages fail. I'm sorry to say it, they do. I think it's what 40 to 50% of marriages fail. I had to look up the exact statistic there. So this is a nice cherry pick of a statistic, isn't it?
According to British author Louise Perry, in her book The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, the monogamous model is spectacularly successful. When society adopts
Mm,
this model, according to
uh,
Perry, it results in less child abuse and domestic violence, lower crime rates, and positive economic
what?
growth. In short, people flourish in their lives and relationships.
Do we think?
Again,
Okay,
these
here's a question: do we think that monogamy results in those things, or do we think that monogamy is like easier in a situation where people are flourishing? Because it's really hard to maintain a relationship if you're struggling economically. It just is. It's really hard if you are constantly a lot of relationships end over money issues. It's really hard to maintain a good marriage and stuff if people are struggling and things like that. So, yeah, a lot of marriages fail. A lot of it might be because of economics situation and things like that. Um, So maybe one comes before the other. Maybe it's harder to be monogamous when you're struggling, which also means there's gonna be more crime and stuff. Okay, I I'd have to look into that, but, this weird connecting of marriage and, like, all these horrible things that are happening seems like a distraction from the economic realities of a very unfair society.
These conclusions line up with the Bible. When Moses delivered God's law to the Israelites, he entreated them to follow the Creator's commands, which he said are for their good. God's design for sex is clear. It is to be experienced between one man and one woman.
No, it isn't clear. I already told you, it is definitely not clear. In the Bible, there are multiple if anything, polygamy is the most common form of relationship in the Bible, one man and multiple women. Oftentimes, the women are not there by choice. They are basically enslaved. Even the 10 Commandments, when it refers to women, it lumps women together with chattel, with cattle and property. It says, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's cattle. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife or his property." Like it views women as property of a man. That's like for most of the Bible. Okay. And then in other parts of the Bible too, when like even in the New Testament, there's a part where there's a bunch of people about to stone a woman who they claim is a prostitute because the Bible thinks, there's a promotion there. A lot of people at that time believe that women should be executed if they engage in sexual activity. I'm wondering if the man was also treated that way. Anyway, so like this is just nonsense.
Become one flesh in a loving, committed relationship for life. So let's revisit my opening question. What would the world be like if everyone followed the Bible's teaching on
Boring. It'd be very boring. Very boring.
sex? Better, same, or worse? I think you know the answer. Whether you choose to live it, well, that's up to you. I'm Sean McDowell, Associate Professor of Philosophy at Talbot School of Theology for Prager University.
Okay. So my last note here, folks, is, who cares?
Thank you for
I don't know why the right wing and PragerU are obsessed with telling all of you out there how to live your lives, what you need to be into, what kind of sex you want to get involved in, what you want to do in your bedroom, who you want to love. Who cares? You do you, right? Like find happiness in your own way. You don't need to listen to these charlatans out here, these folks who are trying to control your sexuality and stuff. And by the way, it's okay. It's okay to have sexual desire. It's okay. And it's okay to get things wrong sometime. It's okay to have a relationship that fails, right? It's a human thing. It hurts. It does. But, we're human. We're a lot of stuff involving love and sex is very emotionally driven. Our bodies, we're not perfect when it comes to it. It's okay to make mistakes. Just make, do make sure you get consent. Don't let these folks control you. And women out there, especially, we do see how a lot of this is about controlling you, right? Like a lot of this stuff, if we were to look deeply into this, it's about like controlling women. A lot of it, okay? And even controlling men to some extent, okay? Even controlling men, but mainly a lot of this stuff is about controlling women, all right? So, okay.